Okay, before I get started with the review, I just want to say that this poster is the best poster in the entire Penguin marketing campaign, so much better than some of these other ones, and yet it's the one poster that I'm unable to use on Letterboxd and serialized in any effective capacity because they keep taking it down, and it's really frustrating to me. Like, if I want this type of poster on Letterboxd, I need to select the foreign one, which looks like it's spelled how Benedict Cumberbatch pronounces penguin.
Penguin.
So I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't know how this show was going to go. I absolutely loved the Batman from 2022. I know some people are a little divided on it, which is weird because it got high praise when it came out, but I genuinely think that's a great film. I thought Matt Reeves had a great vision for it, and I really like this take on Batman. And Colin Farrell's Penguin was a huge standout because he's just so disguised in the makeup with the accent and all of it, and now he's carrying that over into his own standalone spin-off series, and I really dug that. Now, I was really concerned because, okay, is this actually a story worth telling? And absolutely, yes, it is. I was originally shocked when I found out this was TVMA. There's a lot more profanity and a lot more graphic violence than there was in the Batman, which was rated PG-13. But at the same time, it fits because the Batman was very dark and gritty, and so elevating it a little bit further, and considering these are criminals in Gotham, it didn't feel like it was immersion breaking or a complete and utter jarring tonal shift, like when you compare this scene from Black Panther to the opening sequence in Deadpool and Wolverine. Like I said before, Colin Farrell is completely unrecognizable in this makeup, and the accent he does, the mannerisms, the way he's walking, literally every ounce of this character is completely foreign from his normal personality. He has completely reinvented himself into a different person, and all this hard work is paying off. I really hope he gets nominated for an Emmy and takes home a win because this performance was without a doubt incredible, and I think this is just flat out my favorite Penguin adaptation we've seen in live action. Speaking of powerhouses in the acting department, Kristen Milioti, holy crap! I mean, I'm only familiar with her from like How I Met Your Mother, and I think she might have been in Black Mirror, but I've never actually seen that show. I had no idea she had this kind of level of acting chops. I mean, this whole narrative behind Sophia Falcone, how she went to Arkham for 10 years, got out, what the motivation was there, how she wound up in that position to begin with, and to see Kristen Milioti really just deliver such an incredible performance through all of it. She just got those crazy eyes, man. I don't know, she just really got it down. It was a perfect example of a sympathetic villain done right. I also just love how this show really fleshes out the world building of the Batman Epic Crime Saga. Yes, by the way, that's the official name for this franchise, the Batman Epic Crime Saga. Don't like it? Take it up with Matt Reeves. But it was super nice just having this buffer between the Batman and Batman Part 2, which comes out in another 2 years from now. But it also just fleshed out this world without involving every single character from that movie. Like, we get a couple of nods like the Chief of Police and Kenzie and even Bella Real in one scene, but like most of it is self-contained to the Penguin and Falcone and the Maroni family. Everything feels self-contained while still part of that bigger universe. Obviously, the flood from the Riddler's last puzzle was a huge impact on this story and these characters, but this story doesn't make it so heavily reliant on everything in the Batman and is able to stand on its own. So even if you've never seen the Batman, you can jump into this and be like, oh, you know what? I need to go see that movie. And if you've seen that movie already, you're watching this going, wow, this is really awesome. In a sense, it feels like what Disney Plus has been trying to do with these standalone Marvel shows for the longest time, but has been miserably failing in terms of the actual quality and what they're trying to achieve. I also just need to talk about how the writing, the cinematography, the direction, every technical aspect of this, it just feels like there was so much passion put into this project. You can tell these people were sitting down, taking time to flesh out these characters, craft a well-structured narrative, and make sure this wasn't just some churn and burn piece like a lot of the MCU shows have been just to maintain a constant stream of content. No, we're taking 2 years in between the Batman and Penguin to finally give you a standalone thing before in another 2 years you get a new Batman movie. Now they're talking about making a possible Joker spin-off and maybe other additional spin-offs and limited series like these in the future. And if they're able to do that and take the time that they need and get the right creatives behind it, then good. I want that. I want good storytelling. I don't care how much or little we get so long as it is good. But the second it becomes too much for them and they start, setting everything to autopilot and we just keep getting crap content after crap content, then you need to hit the brakes. But if you can maintain and upkeep a steady stream of quality, I am all for it. Going back to the acting, every single actor in this, whether they're leading or supporting, is giving it their all. I think the dynamic between Vic and Oz is really good. I think because Victor is this, young and impressionable guy and is being essentially indoctrinated into the mobster lifestyle through Oz, it gives us a unique perspective into the crime underworld of Gotham City. Usually we're seeing everything through Batman's eyes, and he's coming at it with a vengeance, trying to shut it down. It's bad. But we're never really seeing what turns these criminals. But in this instance, we're able to see what drove a person to become a criminal in Gotham. And in Victor's case, it was, well, I'm not going to spoil it specifically, but we get a lot of his backstory in the one episode, and we just see him progress into, or should I say regress, as he becomes further along the line of becoming a criminal, as his bond with Oz becomes a lot tighter. And it's this weird twisted mentorship where you almost admire the surrogate father feel that he has for Oz, but at the same time, that Oz is just such a bad dude that this is just wrong for him. But that's the crazy thing about Penguin, is he is a master con man. So he's constantly lying to people and manipulating people. And for a while, you as the viewer are buying into this lie, making it seem like he has noble intention because he's doing it all for his mom and he's wanting to make a good future for people like Vic and for the little guy in Gotham, so that they're not being crushed by the rich, the elite, all these other mob bosses. But really, all he wants is to be on top of everyone. And you're reminded of that time and time again. And they just do such an incredible job of, basically like letting you buy into it and then yanking the rug out from underneath you. And yet you don't feel burned or dissatisfied with it. It's just so brilliantly crafted. They also included Carmine Falcone in some flashbacks. If you've seen The Batman, you know that, well, he dies in that film, played by John Turturro. John Turturro couldn't make the shooting for this show, which is really unfortunate because I think it's just another issue with the continuity that they had to recast for another actor. They can make the claim that it was 10 years prior in those flashbacks, whatever, all you want. But when Sophia and Oz look exactly the same as they do 10 years later, as they do 10 years prior, it's weird seeing Carmine Falcone go from, Mark Strong, and then 10 years later, he's John Turturro. The other thing that really bugged me about it was Mark Strong. And Mark Strong is an incredible actor, but I really didn't want to see him be wasted on a couple of scenes in a couple of episodes of a limited series where he was playing a young version of a already established character. I really, really want him to play Mr. Freeze. He is top of the list for me in a Batman movie to play Mr. Freeze, and seeing him be used on this character, while he did an incredible job, believe me, he was intimidating, and honestly, maybe he should have been cast as Carmine Falcone in place of John Turturro in the original film, but I really wish he could have been Mr. Freeze. It bums me that he was wasted on this role, but for what he had, he did incredible work with it. I also gotta say, because this is set in the Batman Epic Crime Saga universe, it's weird not having Batman in this at all. I mean, literally the Falcones and the Maronis are going to war with each other. Penguin's involved in some capacity, and Batman has nothing to do with it. And maybe we'll get some explanation for what happened in the Batman Part 2, but it does feel odd that he was so heavily involved with what was going on with Falcone, especially knowing that Falcone was, close to his father and could potentially be responsible for what happened to the Waynes. And yet when they go to war with each other, suddenly he's just not there. I mean, Colin Farrell even said when promoting the show that Oz wasn't even thinking about the Batman one bit during the events of this entire series. And while that's good for making a standalone project, it is kind of weird for when you're crafting a cinematic universe. But in a way, I'm kind of okay with it, because while it would be nice to have Batman show up as like a cameo or periodically throughout the episodes, it is just nice to have a standalone project in this franchise. and not have to rely on, oh, we got to have this character in here and we got to shoehorn this character in here too. And if it doesn't have these people, then it's not going to be worth our time or our money. Like, they were willing to disassociate while still remaining connected, and that was really interesting. One last little nitpick I'll throw at this show is that I never really cared for the Oz Cobb name. I mean, calling Oswald Oz, not a big deal, it's a nickname, whatever, but changing him from Oswald Cobblepot to Oswald Cobb just feels a little weird and unnecessary in my opinion. Matt Reeves said he did it to make it feel more grounded, and maybe that makes a little bit more sense because Penguin is usually really wealthy in the comics and in other media, so Cobblepot sounds a little bit more like a wealthier name, and Cobb just sounds like someone who live on the east side of Gotham. Okay, maybe that makes more sense, whatever. It's really not that big of a deal because for most part they're just calling him Oz or Oswald. Occasionally Penguin, but I'm just going to refer to him as Penguin. If his last name is Cobb, Cobblepot, whatever, it doesn't really matter. This is the best version of the Penguin we've had in live action. I'm just going to say full stop. Like, I think that this is pretty much what I would expect Penguin to be if he were a real person. And I think that they just did a phenomenal job with the character overall. So changing his last name and cutting out a couple of letters from it, I'm not crying over it. I would have preferred if he was just called Cobblepot, but big deal. But all that aside, I really had a great time with this show, and I think this was phenomenal. Like, HBO is known for making quality television, and this is no exception. I'm glad they were willing to put all the resources in on this comic book show, this Batman spinoff that not many people expected a whole lot from, and it is currently topping people's lists of like best show of the year, and I love to see that. And it was pretty jarring seeing DC and Marvel release weekly episodes with Agatha all along on Wednesdays and the Penguin on Sundays around the same time. Because, I mean, look, I didn't care for Agatha all along all that much. I made a review, I posted it, people disagreed with me and let me know in the comments. I got ratioed pretty good there. But with the Penguin coming out every week and reminding me how good a show can be, and then the mediocrity of Agatha all along releasing right by it, it just reminded me of, like, maybe by comparison, I was on a little bit more of a spectrum of extremes where I was seeing something really good that I really loved and I was really invested with, and then there was this other show that was attached to a franchise I really like, but was disappointing me week after week, and maybe that's why I felt a little bit more strongly on the negative side of that show when I had what basically could have been the quality of it also releasing, but for a different franchise. Because at its core, Agatha and Penguin are very similar. You got a spinoff from a larger franchise about a villain that dresses in purple and is mentoring a young male character who's basically the moral compass of the show and showcasing what kind of, like, you know, evil stuff goes on in the world of villains. The only main difference here is Penguin is reminding you bad guys are bad and there is no good in any of it. With Agatha, it felt more like we're making a show about a villain, but she's not really that bad, guys. See, she's got a heart of gold somewhere, but she's going to keep doing bad stuff. And that's where I kind of lost interest in that show. And I had an easier time steering into the skid of Penguin just because at least it was honest about what it was trying to convey. So I'm going to speed run some episode ratings. First of all, episode 1 hooked me right away. And honestly, I probably could give this a higher rating if I rewatched the show because I wasn't really knowing what to expect. And I was like, okay, I'm bought in. Let's see how the rest of this goes. But for now, episode 1, I'll give that one an 8. As for episode 2 and 4, I have to go ahead and give that a 9. And all the rest, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, they are getting a whopping... oh yeah. And if you do the math, average that all together for a final score of the show overall, well then, well, it was fun the first time. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I'm thinking...
Glad we're on the same page. Yeah. Arts of the Penguin on HBO. I would love to hear what you have to say, whether you saw it and you loved it, or you saw it and you were really let down. Maybe you agree with IGN, giving it a 5 out of 10. Or you think, man, this show is one of the best in a very long time. This is a giant leap for comic book entertainment. I think that this show is amazing. Please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to see how we differentiate in our opinions, but please don't go at each other's throats over it. It's just a show after all, not the most important thing in the world. But while you're down there, you can also leave me a like if you like this video, subscribe if you want more videos like this, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload new videos, because I do that pretty frequently, at least once a week at this point. And if you feel like it, I challenge you. Go to the description, find me on Instagram, Letterboxd, Serialized, and Gigi, and give me a follow on all those accounts. If you don't know what those other ones are, Letterboxd where I post my movie reviews, Serialized where I post my TV show reviews, and Gigi is where I post my video game reviews. And keep in mind, not all those reviews make it onto this channel, so if you don't want to be waiting around for me to edit a video every single time you want to know my certain thoughts on a movie, TV show, or video game, then I highly suggest going down to the description, giving me a follow on all those platforms. Doesn't cost you a thing. And until next time, guys, God be with you, and take care.